The three uses of the law are not the same as the three kinds of law. The three kinds of law I mentioned are civic and ceremonial and moral. The three uses of the law are, you already have a law code, which could contain all of those elements or doesn't have to. How do you use this law code? And so the first use is the first use because it's the most obvious one. Like I said earlier, every culture on earth has a law against murder. Every culture on earth has a law against false testimony in court. There's basic principles of justice without which you can't have a society. And so the first use of the law is the political use. It is trying to limit evil because people are naturally selfish and scheming, and they care about their own good more than they care about the good of their neighbor. And they're often willing to sacrifice your good for the good of themselves and their loved ones. And so you have to have a law code, a binding law code with penalties and enforcement behind it, so that people don't just do that, don't just take the path of least resistance and do what's best for them and theirs at the expense of everybody else. So that is the point of the law that everybody recognizes. What we call the first use of the law would be for many people the use of the law. Like this is the only use of the law. Why else would you have it? You absolutely need it for that, though. So the second use of the law, then, the second use is explicitly Christian. This is the theological use of the law, and this is how Paul uses it in the first two chapters of Romans and throughout the book of Romans, right? Because Paul is not, he does later on write to the Christians to be good citizens, but that's not the point of the book of Romans. The point of the book of Romans, especially in the early chapters, is God's law doesn't tell you, isn't something that you obey so you can be good citizens of Rome. I mean, it is, but God's law, the main reason he has given it to you, and the main reason I'm reviewing it in these first 2.5 chapters, is to point out that you haven't kept it, that you are guilty. And so the second use of the law, if you were trying to apply it to somebody who is absolutely righteous, you would not come to the conclusion you are guilty, right? It's not, whatever you did, you're guilty. It's, this is what you did, this is what the law requires, therefore you're guilty. So if you tried to apply this to Jesus, you would get to the end and you'd say, you're completely innocent. What are you doing on that cross? And there's a segue to the gospel, because he's on that cross for all of us who aren't. So the second use of the law puts you, it wrong foots the whole world before God and says you need a savior.